Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. This is the Corporatocracy edition. And Merry Christmas to you if you are just catching this right after the Christmas holiday. We should be back to our normal schedules here right after the New Year. In the meantime, just enjoy the couple and random videos that we will have, including some news and a few other things that we are working on. But as we want to stick with the regular weekly news program, although not recording these ones live, we still wanted to bring you the news. And I thank you all on the Discord server for sending us some news articles. So today we're actually starting over here looking at one of the things that's being crammed into the COVID response bills are the case law, the trademark modernization law, and a felony streaming proposal. These are all really bad. Now, some of these on the surface look really good where, they want to revise the copyright system to make it easier to make a claim. The problem is this makes it a lot easier for copyright trolls. Now, there's the CASE Act, the Trademark Modernization Act, and the felony streaming proposal. That one there, if you're streaming copyrighted material, it's a felony instead of a misdemeanor, punishable with jail time. A bunch of nonsense, and then there's just a lot of ways to get around this and for companies to abuse it far more than they have in the past. Like in the past, there's been a lot of copyright trolls. These copyright trolls, not only are they going to increase their copyright claims, but they're also going to increase the punishments for the people who are in the middle of false copyright claims. And this happens all the time. What we need to do, now one of the provisions of the law said, hey, if you are caught using it wrong, you could be suspended from making anything future. Well, that sounds good in concept. I have zero confidence in our government's ability to maintain anything like that. Now, this may or may not have been part of the bill that was originally just voted on recently. And I can't remember if portions of it or all of it, some of it was vetoed, I believe. And frankly, it's the Christmas holiday, so I didn't take the time to dig into it all the greater. Just to let you know what is coming on down the pipeline. And if we narrowly dodged a bullet on this, it's going to come back, and it's going to keep coming back until we get enough of these people out of office and say, bury this stupid thing till it doesn't come back from the dead. Yes, we do need a little bit of copyright reform. One of them is we need very extraordinarily harsh punishments for people abusing the copyright system. I think you get caught abusing the copyright system, you make any claims that are not true claims because you have a robotic AI, I think, boom, 5 years, you're done. You can't make any more claims. Now, so you're like, oh my God, that'll cause a lot of theft. Yes, it will. And it's going to cause them to actually take seriously the degree of theft that is happening. In other words, we don't need these copyright trolls running around claiming anything and everything that could possibly be it based on AI without any actual manual review. And we need them to not become the Gestapo trying to beat people down. I mean, for example, I've had a couple copyright claims on videos. Like, I don't use clips. In one instance, I used a recording of 4 Seasons to test audio in a Linux distribution. FYI, 4 Seasons is not copyrighted. But somebody in one of, is it like Orchard Music's, used the same recording on an audio book that they were doing, and so they flagged the public domain recording as their copyright. Now, I won that one, of course, but frankly, Orchard Music, they should have zero way to make any form of automated copyright claims. Everything should have to have an individual person's stamp of approval. And if that stamp of approval is found to be false, that person should be immediately terminated and suspension on that organization for making a copyright claim. What this is going to do is it's going to deeply empower them because it's in theory making it easier to make copyright claims against work. So that's all we're going to say about that. This has been floating around for about a month now. So let's go ahead and look at some latest ones. Google has, there's a new law set that alleges Google and Facebook made a deal to help each other in antitrust action. Now, if you notice up above me here, it says corporatocracy. Corporatocracy is it almost resembles capitalism, and people are like, oh, capitalism is bad, it doesn't work. No, capitalism is excellent. The problem is we have right now is we do not have capitalism, we have corporatocracy, where corporations band together in groups and push into effect the laws and the regulations. The reason we can tell capitalism is not a thing is because Google failed to create an ISP, because there's too much red tape with Comcast. They could not go into a city where Comcast was and create an ISP. This is Google. Okay, that is a corporatocracy. Comcast is so deep inside of politicians' pockets. That's not capitalism. That is them utilizing their power and their influence to direct laws to their favor. That is corporatocracy. And that's really what's going on here. They had this code named Jedi Blue, which was basically an antitrust. So what this is looking at is the ad markets for each of these. So if you've ever done anything in advertising or marketing, you know that Google and Facebook are the number 1 and the number 2 sources of ads. Everyone else comes in a far distant third. And so the question is, and it's the same question, Comcast versus Time Warner. Time Warner and Comcast are 2 huge companies, but they have almost no overlap. They do this intentionally because where I'm at, which is like the 4th largest city in my state, I have exactly one option for internet. Exactly one. Sure, there's a few other options out there, but the next best option runs slightly better than a standard DSL line from 15 years ago. We're talking about being uploads less than 1 Mbps. That's exactly what we have. Meanwhile, Comcast, as of January, they're implementing caps and they're raising our fees again. So while everyone's forced to be at home and forced to do school at home and forced to work at home, our data caps are going, they're starting to enforce our data caps. So we're going from unlimited to, I think it's 1.2 terabytes, and they're raising my price. My cost of internet, basic internet with nothing else, is now over $100 a month. I have no other options I can turn to. That's what I'm looking at. I have no other options I can turn to. And so with that, that is a corporatocracy. Now, what Facebook and Google are doing here is they are creating a system by which they will help each other out in the event of antitrust. So they come in and say, hey, there's antitrust allegations. They'll come in, oh no, there's no antitrust. And so the two are working closely with one another so that they can together maintain number 1 and number 2. And it doesn't matter which one's 1 and which one's 2 because there is no distant third. And that's really what, there's a new lawsuit that is alleging this. So just reading here the big picture here on TechSpot. Many allegations of anti-competitive behavior that have been made against Facebook and Google will be difficult to prove to a satisfactory degree in court. So they're doing it without a lot of evidence. Price fixing by virtue of a strategic deal could be a different matter. According to a new draft lawsuit, Facebook and Google have made an agreement to cooperate and assist one another if they were ever investigated for working to maintain a duopoly in the online advertising market. This is where the guys that like ANCAP, anarcho-capitalism, want to come in and say, hey, just get rid of all regulation. The biggest challenge to that viewpoint right now is you get rid of all of the regulation, and groups like Facebook and Google that already have the power, or Comcast and Time Warner that already have the power, they can override anybody trying to get into the market because we've allowed them to get too big. So that effectively you would need to break them up and then implement a lax of regulation. And there's some possible challenges with that system as well. There is no perfect solution here. But this is kind of what is going on here. So you can kind of see here some of the differences, just kind of looking at where they are. And of course, looking at the digital ad spending, the Amazon digital ads are generally, you see they're much lower, but those are generally just relating to products on Amazon books and a few other odds and ends as well. And so, but I mean, Amazon's number 3, and it's so much smaller of a percentage. And so this is kind of what we're seeing. So interesting to see what's going to be going on with this one down the road. Next, Google redesigning search would harm the internet. So this is a company response to the latest antitrust lawsuit. And I got to be honest, the latest antitrust lawsuit that alleges that search is this, unfair competition, I don't know. I disagree, because the only reason people aren't using other services is because they're not looking for other services. But they're findable. You can go right to Google and type in, search engines, and you can find hundreds of articles about alternatives to Google. There's nothing they're really doing. Now, the only thing that is problematic is when you are using Google itself, the people, it's become a pay to play. It wasn't always, but it's no longer about SEO and optimization. It's about pay to play. Whoever pumps the most money into the system ends up on the top of Google. That's really what it has turned into. Sure, there's still some organic rankings, but you got to scroll pretty far down to get past all of the ads and all of the other Google services that are going to filter you back to Google services. But is that anti-competitive? No, it's their product. If you come into my store, and I own a store, I'm obviously going to have everything dealing with buying things from my store. I'm not going to send you to my competitor. But the problem is, you can go to their competitors. You can go to startpage.com. You can go to DuckDuckGo. You can even go to Bing and Yahoo if you want to. There's no antitrust right here. It's just inside the search engine. You just need to understand you're not getting an organic search. You're getting a pay-to-play search. Maybe that's all they need to do. But what Google is saying is that redesigning the search engine would hurt the internet. And one of the things they say in this article going through is they're like, hey, Bing is doing the same things. What are they doing? They're changing things in response to customer needs, customer requests. This is really what they're doing. And I agree with them. I disagree with this lawsuit. There it is. It's 2020 and I have to agree with Google again. Great. I have to agree with Zuckerberg and, whoa, man. But integrity demands it, because I don't see this particular section as an antitrust. Sure, the last article we talked about, Facebook and Google, sure, we got issues there. I'll agree with that one. This one here, use a different search engine. I haven't used Google outside of intentionally using Google for about 4 or 5 or 6 years now. There's other options. I don't exactly see it's antitrust, nor can I go to google.com and never find anything about any of their competitors. I agree with Google on this particular one. I don't know. Let me know if you agree with me on that assessment or not. Microsoft is now designing its own ARM chips. So first it was Apple, now it's Microsoft. So we knew they were designing some of their own servers and other implementations, but now they themselves are designing new ARM chips. They're really kind of moving away from the Intel themselves, just like Apple is. So I don't know if this is going to be better or worse, but they have a new, Microsoft's working on its ARM processor data centers for its data center servers, including according to a Bloomberg report, which I didn't pull up because, paywall. Bloomberg also says Microsoft is exploring using another chip that would power Surface PCs. So a custom processor for Surface PCs. Could this be a deeply embedded IME type thing? Or is this going to be okay, maybe even better than using Intel? I don't know. So what's interesting here is that they, as just like Apple, they're getting into their own hardware in addition to software. Whether or not this is a good thing, I don't know. It allows them to control their supply chain quite a bit more. So that is one factor to keep in mind. So overall, I don't see this as a huge deal, a huge problem. So this was a good one, almost Sillyville level. But apparently now Samsung is going to stop selling chargers. Now, not too long ago when Apple, it was rumored that Apple was going to stop including chargers in with their phones, Samsung starts mocking them. We have chargers with ours. Well, now they have silently pulled down those Facebook posts and other advertisements because they themselves are like, I see what you're doing here, Apple. It's a way to make more money. And so Samsung's going to be doing the same thing, of course, except in Brazil, where it turns out it's illegal to sell the phone without the charger. I hope that Samsung has realized that and is planning for that contingency. Of course, Apple says, oh, it's to save on marketing and save global warming and green planet, because we completely want everything as green as possible, which is why we don't allow you to repair our crap. We run perfectly good phones that just need one component replaced through a shredder so nobody can use them. Yeah, that's what Apple does. And all to say, no, it's not about saving the environment, people. It's about them making more money. They can sell you the same phone, actually more cost, now without a charger. They say, oh, well, everyone needs. Guys, these chargers do break. Give a new charger with the phone. So A, you have a backup. And B, if I had a charger for my last phone I've had for the last 3 years, it's probably about on the verge of death. And so you're going to have to go in and buy another charger soon. That's what this is about. More money for Apple so they can exploit their workers. And we'll get into that in a moment. I'm not sure why the article was here, but we got one more before we get into our feature story. Zoom is now looking to launch an email service and some calendar services. So email, calendar, video conferencing, all packaged up, just like Google and Microsoft are offering. The question is, would you want to do this? Remember, guys, before you dive on, go, oh, wow, this is amazing. Remember, this is the company that has been lying about end-to-end encryption for a long time. There's even some lawsuits about it right now running through the courts. They came in, oh, we fixed it all, but they were telling us it's end-to-end for a long time, and nobody caught that it wasn't because nobody cared about Zoom until March of 2020. And then everybody in the world was using Zoom. And then all these guys started looking into it and going, they don't have crap in the way of security. You want these guys to be running your calendars and emails? Oh no, bad idea. These guys are collecting and harvesting data. This is going to be a very bad thing for anybody and everybody utilizing those services that they are going to try to offer. So be careful of this, guys. Don't buy into this. You don't want Zoom managing your emails and your calendars. Just give them a little conferencing. If I can give you a piece of advice, don't create an account with them. All right, last story here. After riots, iPhone manufacturers say it deeply regrets exploiting workers. Yeah, Apple regrets getting caught exploiting their workers. This is Apple. This is the company that does put up suicide nets to prevent their workers from jumping off the buildings into their death because the work is so tedious. Well, this was following the riots that broke out in downtown Detroit. Oh, I'm sorry, in the factories in India, where the riot. Basically, what happened, if you didn't follow the story, is they were promised a certain wage. They started doing their work, and then they were told, "Oh no, you're not getting these wages. You're getting lesser wages instead." And then they paid them almost peanuts. Now, Apple's got this degree of separation, so they can't technically be blamed for anything. Like, oh my, we had no idea they were doing such bad things. Basically, this Winston Group, which was one of their subcontractors, they were bringing in, and some people, I saw some articles about them actually going onto the slave market to hire people. I don't know. But there's basically saying, oh yeah, we had no idea they were exploiting workers. And this actually caused a big riot, caused a big, a lot of people looking into it. And really, don't forget that only a couple weeks ago, Apple was trying to lobby against a bill that would have found this type of worker exploitation in American companies. Apple is actively lobbying against a bill to check the supply chain workers of factories for companies in America. This is exactly the type of reason that legislature was written, and this is exactly what Apple is trying to fight against. So there's what we find. It turns out, oh my God, we had no idea. Oh, sure you did. They're just turning the other cheek, and basically the people weren't making any money. They started to riot, caused a lot of bad press release, and then Apple said that this particular company was now put on probation and they will not get any more work from Apple once the current system is done until such things are dealt with. But really, it's not a matter of them regretting exploiting the workers. It's a matter of them regretting exploiting the workers. This, guys, is why I'm not a big fan of Apple products. They are excessively expensive and they spend absolutely nothing making their products. They assemble these things for less than 5 to 10% of what they're selling them for. I'm not against a company making profit. I am against a company exploiting labor to make obscene profit. And that's exactly what we get when we're looking at Apple products. Well, that'll wrap up for the news today. If you'd like to help support the channel, have a look at my affiliates page, tlm.li/A2H for A2 hosting. This is where I am running my individual clients hosting app. So we have Manage WordPress. Don't do Manage WordPress, guys. WordPress expert here. Don't do Manage WordPress. Get a basic standard cPanel, a basic shared panel, and install WordPress on it, either utilizing the one-click install or utilizing either the one-click install, or you can use the Softaculous inside of there. You have managed VPSs. This is actually what I'm using. Pretty good prices. And then we have shared hosting, reseller, and dedicated hosting. So I have a lot of different things. You can see you can get some basic VPSs pretty cheap. And you can have a look at all of their other services over there. tlm.li/A2H. Thanks for coming along, and we will see you in the next video.
Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.